All right. Well, it's good to see you guys. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our conference coming up in early October. I bill it as practitioner, not vendor driven. It's probably the most practical conference in the industry. You're not going to be harassed by any software salespeople or any salespeople for that matter. We draw the kind of the um, probably the greatest mix of CX practitioners you're ever going to see. And it's relatively intimate, right around 175 to 200 people. Some of you have been there, Matt, Mary, so forth. Some of you are presenting there. Great conference, and it's cheap. Purposely, we're not trying to make money. Our early bird rate is $395 for a 2-day conference, including all your meals. And they're decent meals. You're not going to eat anything out of a brown bag, I swear. So no, the food's actually really good. And I think the reason we can do it a little bit cheaper is because it's at the university and their conference center. So would love to see more of you there. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Tom DeWitt. I'm the director of CXM at MSU. Welcome to our monthly roundtable. We've been going now almost a year and a half of monthly roundtables, and it's great to see so many of you here on a regular basis. I'm really happy today to introduce Mary Poppen, who is one of our faculty in the master's program. She will be presenting in the lightning round. You'll then have 15 minutes and an application in Mural. Mary has recommended we just have a team-by-team discussion of your results today, which we'll do instead of voting. So Mary is the president and CXO of Horizons, and also, as I mentioned, a professor of practice in the Masters of Science in Customer Experience Management degree program. She teaches our course in employee engagement. So today, Mary's going to talk to us a little bit about the future of CX being in customer intelligence. So Mary, let's give Mary a big hand. And Mary, I'm going to let you share your screen if you want to present.
There, can you see it?
Yep.
All right. Future of CX is customer intelligence. So I'm going to share not a lot of kind of tactical information or things that you guys have heard a million times, but just a level set some of the thinking along the lines of how I got to what I'm going to share, which is one of the frameworks that I've included in a book. So first thing I want to start with is this beautiful visual of train tracks. I used to use it with my team all the time, and I think they're sick of it. But what it represents to me, customer success ultimately is a journey. Every customer is different. So as you know how in consulting, we used to say, oh, customers all think they're unique, blah, blah, blah. They have similar challenges, etc. But in reality, they are all unique. And this is our opportunity to help them get from, path A to path B in the way that's best for them. Okay, so anyway, this is ultimately, when we focus on the different paths for customers, it leads us to customer intimacy. And this is my favorite word. Tom's heard me say it a million times. Matt has too. Customer intimacy is when you know the customer better than anyone else. You can deliver what they need, when they need it, and in the way that they best need it, right? And ideally, start to predict what they're going to need and get there even before they need it. And that is our opportunity to create customer intimacy. This is really where we drive those wow experiences for our customers. It's been really challenging to get there because we haven't had the data like we have today to be able to do this. And so before I get into some of the customer intelligence and what that actually means, I want to level set a little bit on scale. So I always think about scale as people, processes, and systems. So when you're going to design for scale and personalization for our customers, we need to start with a foundation of journey mapping, come up with what kinds of people and skills we need to build a great customer experience, and then layer on the operational pieces, and then ultimately leading to driving a customer first mindset. And if we do some of these, out of order without building the foundation, what happens is you end up having to backtrack, right? And ultimately create less scale, more confusion and cross-functional issues if you don't really start with a solid foundation. So one of our biggest challenges is that we're trying to balance scale and personalization, right? So how can you focus on both at the same time? And if you use data and customer intelligence, this is how we can start to get there. And customer intimacy is going to come, as well as, happy business outcomes and scale, from using your data on your customer, really getting to know them and creating these amazing personalized experiences. But the challenge, of course, is to do this at scale. And so this is ultimately where customer intelligence comes in. Customer intelligence is our opportunity to leverage AI in the way now that we never had before. It's been built into technology for a long time, but now we have the opportunity to use it to start to analyze multiple data sets, multiple channels of data, and ultimately predict what's going on with customers based on past behavior and past data. So we can actually identify churn and expansion and what is driving those differences in our customer base. And then we can use that information to layer it in to start to predict what's going to happen if a customer, doesn't go live in 3 months. What does that mean, right? What actually is time to value defined by a customer? And then building that into your models and starting to leverage these predictive flags to get ahead of any customer challenges. And even better, going to the customer with value add information and opportunities and being that trusted advisor. So you can start to be proactive, prescriptive, because you're going to bring your product or service in a way that they need and ultimately personalizing the experience. Was there a question? Sorry.
Nope.
So I wanted to spend the bulk of our time on the 5 Ps model. So this is something that I pulled together in order to be able to say, how do you bring customer intelligence to life? So I thought 5 Ps would be easy to remember. And each of these pieces has a really key part in building customer intimacy and a great customer experience. And if you can deliver this ongoing, you're going to keep customers for life. You're going to create a differentiation from competitors, all of those great business outcomes. So the first P I'll start with is playbooks. So this is really, we've all heard of playbooks. You create repeatable activities, etc. But what I want to point out here is every customer should have a unique playbook. So you're going to leverage a foundation of consistent use cases and processes with customers, but how they're deployed is going to be different based on what the customer needs. And this is where each customer will have essentially their own unique playbook. And because of AI and tech, we're able to do this. So now we can start to get predictive. What are they going to need? And you can build this into their playbook. You can then get prescriptive. How does this use case apply to this customer? Maybe it's by industry, maybe it's by customer size, maybe all of these things matter. Process maturity is another piece. So when you really know the customer, you can start to help them understand how to leverage your product or service better, right? And it isn't prescriptive like, here's a blanket best practice. This is a feature or a use case or a service that will apply to you in this way to get results. Then once you have the predictive piece and you can apply it the way the customer needs, now you can be proactive. So you don't just have to wait for a QBR or an opportunity to have a conversation with the customer to upsell them. You can reach out and say, hey, did you know that 80% of your engineers have adopted this solution? And that means, you're hiring another 1,000 engineers in the next year. We need to start thinking ahead for onboarding, for licenses, et cetera. So you're coming to them with this proactive messaging of what they're going to need, because you're seeing it, right? And that's impressive to customers, because typically they go, oh, we're going to hire, we need licenses. It's all kind of reactive. And we have the opportunity to change that now. And then the final piece, which I'm the most excited about, is this personalization component. And this is personalizing the experience to not only the customer as a whole, but also to the people that you're interacting with, right? What is their role? How do they need the information delivered? An executive sponsor is going to need more high-level strategic story headline information, whereas a project owner is going to need more of the details, right? The action steps that are next, those kinds of things. So if you put all of these 5 Ps together, you're able to bring to life very unique customer experiences that are relevant, meaningful, and value add, that are unique to every customer. So that's the 5P model that I wanted to share. The breakout conversation is really about, how do you apply? How can you take, 1 or 2 actions and apply it to the 5 Ps? Where would you start in your organization? What do you already have in place you could take advantage of, right? Are you already collecting cross-functional data and centralizing it? If you are, you're already on a great road to prediction. Had to make a plug for my book, Goodbye Churn, Hello Growth, on Amazon.
I said, I've got a copy. I still need to get it signed. I'll bring it.
I'll sign it October.
All right. All right. Okay. Well, let me share the mural board, and maybe you can inform the group as to what you want them to do in the mural board.
Perfect.
Go ahead and you'll be assigned to a team. Looks like we'll have 6 teams.
So we have the mural board set up with each of the 5 Ps. So in your break, and by your group 1, group 2. So if your breakout group 1, you'll use group 1, and have a dialogue about what are the actions that you think you could take to impact, creating more unique playbooks for your customers. What could you do to get more predictive? What could you do to just be more proactive? So it's really an opportunity to dialogue. What actions can you take today in your organization to start to make a better customer experience?
I have a question.
Yes.
Are the playbooks individualized? I've heard of segment level playbooks, but I've never actually heard of individual playbooks, unless that's just, the algorithm is telling the customer rep the next thing to sell or that sort of thing. Is that what you mean?
It's a great question, Rachel. And yes, so the playbooks, like we know them, are sort of guides and templates and consistent practices, right? And what I'm talking about is every customer will have a unique playbook that will surface actions that are unique for sales, for customer success, for marketing even. And it'll be based on that customer specific situation. And so when should you reach out to each customer to do an upsell? A lot of times we wait too long, right? We wait 9 months, and we could have actually upsold them a new product after 3 months. And it's those kinds of triggers that help inform the playbook for each customer.
Mary, if you can share the slide deck, and we're going to give you guys 15 minutes as a team to go ahead and work across the 5 Ps. And I will move Mary from room to room should you have any questions. All right. Best of luck. Yeah. All right. All right. Well,
Thanks, Tom. I was like, hi, everybody. And then I'd be saying something and like ripped out.
I'm sorry. Yeah. It was 3 minutes, What am I going to do? What am I
good.
What am I going to do? All right.
No, great dialogue though. I love it.
So what I'm thinking, Mary, is should we go by the 5 Ps, start with predictive, so we're kind of on the same track? And if you want to kind of lead a discussion, if we start around predictive actions, and then we can hit on a few teams and then go to the next.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Any teams super excited to start? talking about what you discussed related to actions or what you're doing or could be doing related to getting predictive? Don't be shy.
There's one thing our team didn't discuss that I thought that we should look at is developing better user personas and keeping the user persona as like almost like a living document and evolving it as your business grows. Because I mean, I look at from even our company's point of view, some of our user personas and who we look at as our target base is, I mean, I feel like we're stuck in 2016.
Mm-hmm. And
So
we spend a lot of time on ICP, but it's different, right? It goes deeper into those user profiles. And a lot of times that doesn't get much attention. But you're right, to get predictive with those user roles, if you can get to the granular level, how they're using features, how they're using use cases. A manager uses a system different than, say, an employee, right? For engagement, employee takes a survey, but the manager actually uses the dashboards and things. So if you can start to look at the data and map out a path, right? It can create a better experience from a self-serve perspective, but also just for the customer in general from an adoption perspective.
Well, and even how those personas evolve over time, because I know Matt works in a retail setting, so it's a little bit different than what you're referring to. But yeah, I mean, if you can boil all your customers down to 5 different personas and then look at how they evolve and change.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Matt.
Anybody else?
Well, my customer base is a little bit different. We do government contracting. So, you know, our customer is usually one division of the a division of the federal government or even state governments. So what our customer needs are generally come to us in the form of PWS, or let's see, it comes to us in the form of a solicitation. So when we boil it down, they're telling us what they need, and then we send them a quote for price.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit different than what you're talking about, than a customer coming in, you know, wanting a watch or something of that nature. It's just a little bit different. So I'm a little bit quiet because I'm taking it in differently.
Cynthia, who do you work for?
I work for Crown Grace International.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
And Cynthia, oh, go ahead.
We're out of the Washington, D.C. area, actually Maryland. We're an international company. So we've been in business about a little more than 20 years, 22 years or so. So like I said, our business is a little different. 90% of our business is federal government. We have business or do business with the state and some individual companies, but 90% of our business is federal government contracting.
Do you find customers are good at understanding their needs when they're making these requests?
Not really. That's why they send us what we call a RFP, a request for, they send us a request. They tell us what they need. Then they send us a request for pricing and questions that we might have. So they don't always know what they need. They have an idea of what they need, but they don't know what it may cost to do that. And usually these are contracts that are, the first part of them are 12 months. Usually they last anywhere from 3 to 4 years, with each with each year being based on the success of the first year. So that's why they send us what we call an RFP or RFQ. And it may be designated for specific set asides, for example, women-owned or small business, veteran-owned small business, different set asides. So they don't always know what they need. And they don't even know how much it's going to cost to do it. But they do have some idea. And they usually go to the smallest to the smallest bid. I'll put it that way.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, it sounds like too, there's a great chance to get prescriptive with them once you get a foot in the door, right? To go back and say, I think this is really what you're asking for, and here's what we can do.
Well, when they ask us, send the information, we send specific questions to them that they hadn't thought of. So at that point in time, they haven't awarded the contract. And usually there's anywhere from 5 to 20 people bidding on the contract. It depends on whether it's free and open or if it's targeted towards small businesses. So,
Great.
okay, sorry, I didn't mean to dominate the conversation with that.
Oh,
I just
that's
thought that I would tell you, that's why I'm not saying a whole lot, because our book of business is a little bit different than what we're discussing.
Well, and you bring up a really good, Mary, she brings up a really good point. We've got really divergent businesses with very different customers. So
Mhm.
you've got to take, each needs to take a unique approach in identifying and predicting customer needs. So, and
Mhm.
sometimes we don't even know what those needs are, don't have enough data to show it.
Mhm.
But with that in time, looks like if we can move on to prescriptive actions. So any team jump out here with something they're particularly proud of on prescriptive actions?
That we discussed was that to be able to be prescriptive, we really need to understand the use case. Sometimes customers may say, I need this, but why do they need that? Because what they communicate as what they need might not be the true solution to their problem. Or a lot of times customers aren't good in elaborating what they need exactly. So we really need to understand the end goal. What are they trying to achieve? And that will help us to be more prescriptive, along with all that customer intelligence data that comes from the predictive stage.
Absolutely. Sometimes these conversations turn into co-innovation opportunities too, right? Which is also an exciting time to get personalized and prescriptive at the same time. Who touched on the? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, we talked about it, but I didn't get it to run. I typed it in after our team kind of broke apart, but I touched on the journey mapping piece, like using current state and then helping, like you said, Mary, doing that co-innovation to define what future state should be, and then really getting prescriptive of how do we get to future state, but do it together rather than in our silos.
Love that. Good. Anything else on prescriptive, or should we move on to proactive? We had a really interesting conversation. Was it breakout 3 where we spent a lot of time on proactive? Just reaching out to the customer, having a QBR or some sort of scheduled meeting where you bring new information isn't necessarily as proactive, right, as you could get. So we had a really good conversation about being able to have cross-functional visibility to data, and being able to then, find those nuggets of value that you could proactively reach out to a customer with something meaningful. Matt, I think you shared some stuff that you're.
I was just going to add, I think one of the things today, we don't sit down and do enough proactive. Everybody seems so busy, and technology is texting and everything else, where the days of sitting down and saying, this is what we've learned, and face to face, and be able to discuss it and find out from your customer whether this is in line, if you're calibrated correctly or not. And I think everybody's rushing so much many times, this piece gets missed, and you jump ahead when in reality you should be spending time here in that proactive mode.
So true. We're starting to rely on tech just to get proactive for us, right? Hurry up and write an email, hurry up and do this, or auto send this information without it being really meaningful.
Another context, if you're doing voice of the customer data and tracking NPS, if you do it by hierarchy of the organization, right? It's important to be proactive in terms of issues that might come up with kind of the user community that you don't want to trickle up, and or issues with the business relationship at a more strategic level that you don't want to spread. So if you're doing some form of health status scorecard around B2B accounts, being proactive, as you said, Mary, not waiting for the QBR, right? But heading it up prior to those events, by listening at all levels of the organization.
We also touched on identifying new use cases for our products that we didn't think of. Something just that we can keep in our back pocket to, if it comes up, hey, if there's another way we can do business together.
And when you're reaching out with something the customer needs, not necessarily a sales call, right? Feels very different when it's about the value prop and what they're needing to kind of transform their company than it is about, do you want to buy more licenses, right? Or even in a scheduled meeting where you're talking about upsell, it's expected. If you can have those conversations around the actual value and outcomes, it's a sales conversation, it doesn't feel like it. Awesome. How about personalization? So I always think that this is something we think marketing should do and is really good at, and that's sort of it. But I think we're in a place with tech now that we really can start to apply personalization across every single interaction we have with the customer, not just messaging, right? Which even sometimes we don't get right in marketing. But I'm curious your guys' thoughts around things that you came up with around personalization to the individual that you're working with, to the company. Maybe it's by segment or industry. Anybody want to share?
I'll chime in if no one else will. And we didn't talk about this in our group. I had some technical issues, had to jump out, come back in, and I missed some stuff. But I'll look at it from the standpoint of myself as the consumer in the personalization. And I'm going to use the Starbucks as an example. So I'm a Starbucks customer. I have their app. And they seem to, when they provide their offers through the app, and I'll get notifications of what the offers are tailored to my purchase history. So essentially my favorites. And when the offers come in, whether it be buy 3 in a row or buy the bagel or whatever, they're tailored to the things that I like and normally buy versus, let's say, other organizations that come to me and they're giving me offers or what they might think are personalized communications that are so far from personalized. I wonder if they got wires crossed in the back end of knowing who I am and what I might want.
Well, I would wager, Rick, they haven't gone that far. Like, because when you're talking about that, I go to Panera quite often. I'm also a type 2 diabetic. I never buy a pastry or cookie there, but that's the first thing they try to reward me with. So
we utilize Salesforce Einstein, which is awesome because every time we have a customer leave, we can go into Salesforce and do a chatter post and say, this customer came in, this, and this. They were a gifter. They're a corporate gifter for him, gifter for her. They like these colors. And now hashtag this. And now we can organize them by hashtag and know how to reach out to them and build out a schedule for outreach. And that's, if you can't, it's really good to see why they came in and what products they buy in their purchase history. But if you can't make it actionable, it's useless.
And I think Chip said it earlier too, right? It's really using that data and looking at the past behaviors to then apply that, start to predict, but personalize the experience. So Tom, you don't get a donut when you shouldn't. They have data on you in the app. They know what you buy.
What they're trying to do is upsell. It's all based on margin and everything. I get it from a business standpoint, but from a, I guess what I'm, as a customer, what I want to feel in my mind is they know me, right? And that's what we all want to feel. We all want to feel like it's individualized and personalized. And as you guys have talked about, technology can help to facilitate that. But if you're not being strategic about it, if it's not part of business model, then it just doesn't happen.
Well, in
Happy to
comparison to
see
your,
Starbucks is doing it. Wish Panera was doing it too.
I'll give you a good example. I happen to be a Kroger shopper. My wife shops at another place, but I go to Kroger. They have all my data, and every 2 weeks, as goofy as it sounds, they send out these little coupons, and they're in the paper, and they've tried digital, but the paper coupon, and they send you about 8 of these, and these are things that I buy, and they say, well, hey Chip, here's a free one of these, or here's, if you buy 2, you get half off on this one. And these are the things that are important to me. They don't try to sell me kumquats or onions. They're selling me LaCroix and bananas, and that keeps me going back, because I know. And then they tie that into the gas, price off the gallon of gas and all this. So they really know me, but they use, as I said, Mary, if you use the data and you extract the intelligence, you have me for life.
Yep.
as a comparison to Tom's scenario of the cookie and providing an offer that doesn't resonate with him, in the Starbucks example for me, you mentioned upsell, and what happens with the offer they're giving is they're going to look at, we're going to give you something more in terms of stars for the rewards program. And so it might be order 2 days in a row or 3 days in a row, and we're going to give you X more stars than what you might normally get if you don't. So it's their version of upselling, but it's something that they know I already order and theoretically enjoy, but I am already a repeat purchaser of those kinds of things. So they're going to say, okay, we know what he likes, and we're going to try to do the upsell on, if let's say I'm not ordering and I haven't ordered in a couple weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, what they might do is say, oh, wait, we've got a gap in time. Let's try to trigger them to go back into the store and get something. And that's how they do it.
Yeah. I was going to say, Tom, in your example, it sounds like what Panera needs to do first is develop that relationship with you to understand what you want. Without that relationship, without that data, they're not going to be able to know what to offer you. So Starbucks is a good example because they have data. But what Panera needs to do is somehow get you to develop that relationship.
Actually, Panera with their SIP club, they've got access to everybody's data. So everybody's signing up for SIP club to save money on drinks. But every time you go in, and every time you go into a Panera operation, you're either entering the order through your app or through the kiosk. They've got your data. What's interesting though, is that they're not utilizing the data to structure the rewards program.
So there's a gap there.
Algorithm. I love Chip's example because it's like, start with what they like, and occasionally give them a freebie or discount or otherwise. But if you want to get a little more sophisticated, say, well, people who normally order this product, order this and appreciate this and add it. I just think they're not being too creative and how they manage their loyalty program. So
is there a lot of research into like every place that has an app where you can set up your customer profile, like in your case with the Panera, and they just offer you a cookie straight out the bat, versus here are 3 options that are in the same price category that we could offer you as a reward? Which one would you like if you were to get a reward? And not only that, and it puts the customer in a position of, I feel empowered to make a decision. They're giving me the power to choose.
So Matt, I would say that the hospitality industry, as well as airlines, are moving towards that. So like, I give an example in our group, IHG Hotels asks me, which room do you prefer to be in? Do you, not just what floor, but like, do you like to be near the elevator or far away from the elevator? And here's the crazy part. When one night I checked in and they were like, hey, we don't actually have the type of room or that a little bit further away from the elevator that you like. So here's a couple of drink tickets on us to kind of make up for the hope you sleep well. They now, to their credit, they don't know I don't drink, but the whole point is they were trying to accommodate when they couldn't respond to the one preference. They were trying to now have a plan B even. And I think you're going to see that more and more happening. But what I was telling the group was they use the insights to know, does that matter to people? Does the closeness to your room being close to an elevator matter as much? If you're a family traveling, you might say yes that time because you just want to get off the elevator, get in the room as quick as possible with your kids. If you're that business traveler, you might say no so that you can be way down the hall away from all the foot traffic.
What chain was that?
ISG hotels.
And then when you find all those
I'm not affiliated with them. I work for Medallia, but I'm not affiliated with them. But that was my experience.
If you're a drinker, you want to be closer to the ice machine.
Yeah,
You bring up a really good point. It's interesting. My daughter just booked into a hotel in San Francisco, and it wasn't in the deal. But when she arrived, they gave her credits, food and beverage credits. And I think that's the idea here is this added value that it doesn't really cost you. It only costs you the cost of the food and the service. But I think she was getting like $35 a night in F&B credits, and it just blew her mind. And the photos she's taking now and sending us, and I think that's you guys have brought up a lot of really good points. A reward program should give you some flexibility in choices. It should be perceived as an added value, as a bonus, as if you've achieved something and something you're excited about. It's not offered you bought 5, so now you get a free cookie. To me, it's that I can't eat, but
well, the other thing is money. And I'll give you one last example. My wife is a big shopper at Home Goods and also Talbot's, and they track her spending, and they send her a check and say, here's a check for $40 or $70. Do you think she just spends that? We go well beyond the 40 and 70, I can tell you. But again, that's the incentive. I care about you and I'm giving you some money, but we all know from the research, you always overspend that. So it's smart marketing.
We utilize a lot of brand tribalism in our loyalty program, which is interesting, making the customer feel a part of our tribe. Basically, we call themselves Foundry members, and if you spend enough money, you get to be a Foundry member. But the thing is, it's not like a punch card. There's no set ways to become a Foundry member. There are people who've spent 20 grand and they're not. There's people who've spent 2 grand and they are. We track organic engagement. So by being a Foundry member, they get little things like in early access to product launches or come have drinks at the store one night. And it's something that costs us nothing. And it's a loyalty program that allows us to charge to bring in more money because our Foundry members make up 35% of our total revenue.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, our time has come to a close. Thanks, Mary. We really appreciate it. You certainly got everybody thinking and talking today. Thanks for everything you do. And those of you who are attending CXM 360, you'll be able to hear Mary speak at the conference along with a few of our other faculty. Next month, we're going to be joined by Risa and Michael, who are recent graduates from the MSCXM program. They founded the firm Mindset CX. And their presentation is around changing the way that you think about your customers. So we look forward to seeing you guys again in September, and hopefully we see you at CXM 360. I dropped a link to the conference in the chat. I promise you it's like a conference experience like no other. In fact, I was telling one of the participants here, it feels more like a reunion than it does a conference. So yeah, even Eileen, if you can join us from Australia, that's fine. I'm actually going to be there in November. Maybe we can have a cocktail. Yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks.
Right.
Thanks for joining from Australia. Eileen, appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I could get up early.
So are we. Take care. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.